for today's webinar. I'm Darius Blackboard, the Organizational Director of the National Powersports Dealer Association, and along with my colleague Tigra Tsujikawa, Membership Marketing Manager, we welcome you to today's webinar, Powersports, Plugging into Electric. Our panelists today are Tim Calhoun and Andy Leisner from NPDA Partner RAWRR, Sam Blevin from Quietkat, George Gatto, a board member of the NPDA and formerly chairman of the Independent Bicycle Dealers Association, and Robin Hartfiel, editor of Dealer News. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, as you heard, and will be shared afterwards by the NPDA as well as by Dealer News. If you have questions, please type them in the chat area and we will do our best to respond. If we run out of time, and we will hang on to the questions and get responses out when we share the video. Finally, the NPDA is thankful for all the support from our 400 plus members and 25 partners, including, of course, RAWRR and Dealer News. We also are humbled by the work and commitment of our board of directors, all who are dealer principals from around the country. Okay, I'm done. It's now time to turn to today's moderator who will move us through the program. Robin, like I like to say, the internet is yours.
Ciao tutti. So not a question of if EVs are coming, not even a question of what or when, but it is what they are. We have definition issues. We have problems with who wants to take them. The IBDs apparently don't want anything that's got a pedal assist or greater power. The power sports industry doesn't think they have enough power. We're all lost. Tim, Andy, and I were just in Milan for the world's largest motorcycle and bicycle show, and we saw the hybrids, the crossovers, the opportunities. It's here, folks. How we deal with it is up to us. I will say, as a seated MIC board member, we're still grappling with how we define it and what's our purview as the MIC versus what's People for Bikes realm, all of that. And how we see it isn't necessarily how the real world sees it, and the government sees it even differently. So Andy, based on what we saw in Milan and what you're doing with redefining the category, this is not just a bunch of mountain bikes or pedal assist things. We've evolved the EV sector into something really different. Where are we?
Yeah. It's what's interesting is that initially the EV sector for motorcycles was just trying to make versions of our current product that are electric instead of gas, for like Zero. And now we have, Stark doing this with motocross and Honda doing this as well with motocross, and they have a lot of strengths, those products going to an electric power plant. But there's some subsegments of electric that have popped up of two-wheel electric that are interesting because they're going to help power sports dealers bring new people into the dealerships and sell products that aren't necessarily going to replace something that an internal combustion engine consumer has now, but it just sort of add an additional sale and a new consumer to their mix.
Sorry, I muted myself. Very cool. Now that new consumer that we're tapping into, specifically with RAWRR, you've wrestled with it and you're ahead of the game. You're going to have a plated street legal version of an e-moto, a motorcycle, not a bicycle.
Yeah. RAWRR's in an interesting place. We're in a category that we call lightweight electric or e-moto. We've created that category name to sort of differentiate it. We're not an e-bike. We have pegs, not pedals. We're very proud of that. We're not a full-size motorcycle. We're not a Stark. We're not trying to go up against a 450 motocross bike. We're in a segment that was created sort of by accident by a company called Sur-Ron. About 6 years ago, they created this weird, funky thing that no one really understood. That was sort of a dirt bike, but built with mountain bike parts, and it just took off. It exploded. They're selling about 50,000 units of that product in the U.S. alone here right now. That's a quarter of total off-road motorcycle sales almost. So that segment's blowing up. That's where we live. We live in that what we call lightweight electric segment here right now.
So that lightweight segment specifically, we saw 41 variations of the theme in one show hall in Milan. And I mean, it was Sur-Ron City, and they were all the same. They had that same pivot point, the swing arms were the same. RAWRR, at least you've got a different frame. You were a new animal into that playing field.
Yeah, we're proud that we're in that category, but we were designed by motorcycle riders and motorcycle enthusiasts and racers. And we're in that sort of that lightweight electric category, but we designed a real motorcycle, not just a glorified mountain bike. And with geometry and such that does that. But yes, everybody, when a company like Sur-Ron with no marketing and a fragmented dealer network and distribution network sells that many vehicles, everybody takes notice. And like you said, there were a bunch of variants. A lot of them are sort of missing the mark, though. Robin, you saw them there. They look like they're in this lightweight electric category, but they look like spaceships, and these futuristic, weird products that I don't think anybody would like to buy. We'll talk about this consumer who's buying these products now, and they're not looking to ride a spaceship. They're just looking to ride something simple and fun, I think.
Let's go to your presentation and see some of that differentiation spelled out. Peter, if you can get the graphics, there we go.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to talk with you folks today about this category. Again, it's a new category that was invented, like I said, sort of by accident, but I see it. I've been in the power sports industry my entire life. Been riding motorcycles since I was 6 years old, and I care deeply about this business. And I've always worked, when my time on the MIC board with Robin and Tim, always worked at bringing new people into the market. And what we see with this particular category, the lightweight electric category, we have the ability to bring more new riders into motorcycling since any time, prior or since the 1970s big mini bike boom. It's an incredible opportunity we have here right now. And so I just want to talk a little bit, get people to understand what this market segment is. And full disclosure, this was a presentation that we built for the motorcycle media, so it talks a lot about RAWRR, but we'll just it'll again sort of help you understand what the products are in this category and who the consumer is and why this consumer is not coming in your door right now. Okay, Tira. So first of all, like I said, we're not e-mobility. We're not a scooter, a stand-up scooter to get from last mile type of product. Okay, Tigra, you can go ahead. We're not an e-bike. Again, we're pegs, not pedals. We're proud to say that. A lot of people are looking now at this e-BMX category. We're not in that category either. And we don't say, oh, we're not in this lightweight electric segment. We're not saying we're trying to replace something that's gas. We're just another really fun product that a power sports enthusiast or someone new to power sports can recreate on. So it's a new category. It's a new consumer. And like I said, we call it lightweight electric, or we call it e-moto because we can. We gave it that name. And I wanted to talk about sort of who we're working for, who this consumer is, and who this audience is. And this is the person that will has the ability to come into your doors and buy products. And some of them are people you see already, but a lot of them aren't. So this is who we work for, our design target. Not everybody is in this category that buys our product, but this is who we design for. We call them the Newligans. This is if anybody lives in an area, if anybody lives in Southern California, you see packs of these guys riding around on lightweight e-motos. They're 12 to 22 years old. They ride lightweight electrics in vacant lots, under freeway overpasses. They build little jump tracks. They build motocross tracks wherever they can find a little piece of land. They are young. They are rule breakers. They ride these on the street very much illegally, but you see them riding up the street to get to the area where they all go and build a little track or build a little jump section. And again, we call them the Newligans. These are the values that they are sort of that they look for: fun and freedom, authentic connections. These guys ride and travel in packs. They're about personal expression. If it didn't show up on social media, it didn't happen. So there's a lot of, go on TikTok or YouTube and search Sur-Ron, and you'll see millions of videos of kids jumping things and railing berms. And they're again, just really, I think what I like in them too is it's very similar to what happened with the skateboard movement of the 90s. Only this is happening in our business right now. And those are kids that are not coming into the dealership right now for other things. They probably would have never entered motorized two-wheel recreation on a gas-powered product or a product with a clutch and a gearbox. They're coming in through this product, but we have an opportunity to take these and make them motorcyclists for life. That's my personal goal with this group of consumers. The other two people that are big purchasers of this category of product are the people we call the Moto Dads. These guys are in your dealership. They're in there already. They probably have a KTM or a Husky. They drive a pickup truck, probably a Raptor. They have an iPhone, not an Android. They're sort of more discerning off-road enthusiasts. They have kids that ride. They've discovered that this lightweight electric market allows them to build a motocross track in their backyard and ride in the evenings with their kids and not upset the neighbors because they make no noise, or ride up the street a mile or two to the trailhead and get in a trail ride right before dinner. Something they couldn't do on a gas-powered motorcycle. So the Moto Dads are buying them for themselves and for their kids, which is great. And then the other group is more of a millennial segment. We call them the Rad Venturers. They are folks that are the off the grid, the van life, off the grid camping types. A lot of them use pedal assist mountain bikes, but a lot try to extend their adventure with lightweight electric. You start to see these products showing up on bumper racks on Sprinter vans. So it's another market segment that we're pursuing. Again, another group of consumers that aren't coming into your dealership now. So we also work for not necessarily the person who rides this, but who approves all purchases in the household, and we call them the den moms. They're the cool moms on the street. They're the ones that all the kids hang out at their house in the evenings. They want their kids to have fun, responsible, safe adventure. They want their kids to go out and get dirty, but do so responsibly. So we're very much not just about taking this market segment product and marketing it to the end user, but we need to gain the acceptance of the parents as well. Again, the values of the den mom, they're very much about connection and safe adventure, well-rounded development. When I grew up riding a 60cc mini bike, I was responsible for all its maintenance and keeping it clean, same sort of thing. And durable value. They don't want something that breaks and they got to rebuild a top end, every few months. They want something that goes and goes and goes. So this is a segment dominated by Sur-Ron and Talaria. RAWRR, we want to be the leaders there by 2026. We want to dominate that market segment. Right now, Sur-Ron and Talaria are unique companies. They're Chinese companies, no real corporate presence in the United States. They just sort of dump the product here. They don't obey dealer franchise law. If you've got a heartbeat and a PO box, you can become a dealer for them. We deal only with Powersports dealers. We believe strongly in dealer franchise law. This is a motorcycle. The U.S. government classified this as a motorcycle, not as an e-bike. It is, and as such, it has to be sold as a motorcycle. And we need Powersports dealers to sell it. especially as we move into our DOT street legal version of this motorcycle here in the spring. It has to be sold by a Powersports dealer. That's not something that can be sold, mail order like a Sur-Ron or Talaria. Okay, next. We're doing this through people. That's using experienced Powersports executives. Tigra, next. Professionalism. Again, we're fully compliant with EPA, CARB, DOT, ECE. The others aren't. Again, they just dump product and hope they don't get caught. And product, we're trying to make a product that's a real durable, not a glorified mountain bike, but a durable product that's in this lightweight segment, but is designed like a motorcycle. You can go on past that, Tigra. Yeah, just so this is about the RAWRR Mantis itself, but it shares a lot of the characteristics with the other bikes. So just to give you an idea of what this is like, it uses a 72-volt battery. The others use 60-volt batteries, but we use a 72-volt battery, Samsung 21700 cells. These are the same battery cells that you'll find in a Tesla Model 3. So it's a fairly sophisticated battery plant. It's not a cheap, e-bike battery. Our batteries are UL certified, UL 2271 certified, which means they're, resistance to fire, overcharging, undercharging, cold, heat, being punctured, being dropped. We read a lot in the news about a lot of the e-bike fires that happen from cheap products, imported from China and sold on Alibaba. But companies like ours and Sam's, we're in a different league as far as battery technology. It's a 7,500 watt motor. So to give you to put it in motorcycle terms, it's interesting. We make about the same amount of horsepower as a Yamaha TTR 125. Not a lot, about 11 or 12 horsepower. Next, but we make about the same amount of torque as a 450 motocross bike. So it's an interesting, and that's just the nature of the electric power plant. And that's, again, this is the RAWRR, but it's a similar for the other bikes in the category. The chassis on the RAWRR, as opposed to the other people in this segment, where the rider sits over the rear wheel and the foot pegs in the seat are behind the swing arm pivot. We try to put everybody in the middle of the motorcycle, like a motocross bike. Next. Battery and motor placement, just sort of differentiating us from the competition there, who stack their battery on top of the motor, create sort of a top heavy motorcycle. We put our battery in front of the motor to make it make the center of gravity a little more centralized. And opposed to a belt gear reduction, we use an actual motorcycle transmission for our gear reduction. Again, this is sort of showing how we're better, but I'm going to use this to show a couple points to sort of describe this category. Okay, Tigra. You can go on from there. Yeah, so the original bikes in this segment, Sur-Ron, Talaria, they use mountain bike handlebars and mountain bike stems. We use a true motorcycle stem, triple clamp and bar. We carry a little bit more weight than those. Those were originally designed as sort of toys for kids. We can carry a 265-pound rider on the RAWRR Mantis. And you can keep going on there from there, Tigra. It's just an example of our frame. We put a lot of, this is our sort of our centerpiece, that Mantis frame. It's not, again, not a toy. It's purposefully designed for really the rigors of off-road riding. We have people that ride these on double black diamond trails in the high mountains of Colorado, stuff that I would never even attempt on any motorcycle. And then a lot of people ride them on motocross tracks, mini moto, vet tracks. The RAWRR Mantis or any lightweight electric on a vet motocross track is so much fun. It's just it's 160 pounds. It makes you feel like a supercross hero when you're riding one. Okay, next. Us and the others in the category are IP67 waterproof. Technically, we could ride one of these lightweight electric products on the bottom of a swimming pool. Not for very long, but we could do that. It's interesting. I just saw a video of someone riding a RAWRR Mantis through the deepest river I've ever seen, where the bike just disappeared, and he came out the other side of it. And obviously, you don't have to worry about it ingesting any water. Just talking about why our battery is better than the others, and what helped us get our UL 2271 rating. And UL is required for the state of New York to sell electric products in the state of New York. Something Sam is very aware of, and we're aware of. This just was passed in September. I had a meeting with NHTSA in Washington, D.C. a few months ago, and they hinted that for electric products in the e-bike and e-moto space, that the UL certification is likely to become a nationwide mandate moving forward for batteries. And then one other thing that differentiates this from a traditional dirt bike is reverse. It's very easy to make an electric motor go backwards, and we have a little reverse function on it. So you get stuck on a gnarly trail, you can just back right up. Finally, and this is the last point, but it's the one that makes this segment very, very unique, are the different ride modes. We have 4 ride modes, from Eco 1 to Sport mode. Eco 1 we designed. There was a YouTuber recently that tested our motorcycle. He said, "Oh, Eco 1, this is the stupidest mode I've ever. This only goes 20 miles an hour and it has no throttle response whatsoever." We designed that mode just for that purpose, for the purpose of, for someone who's never ridden a motorcycle in their life, I wanted a mode that people could get on, they could whack the throttle open, and the bike would just pull away from a stop nice and slow, and wouldn't go and would top out at 20 miles an hour. That's what our Eco 1 is. I've seen so many people, their first introduction to motorcycling was on, when I was a kid growing up, a YZ80, where they grabbed a handful of throttle and the thing wheelied away. And that was the last time they ever wanted to get on a motorcycle for the rest of their life. So I didn't want that to happen with this. So that was what's Eco 1. But then you go all the way up to Sport mode. We were out at a local motocross track a few months ago with 4 AMA Pro motocrossers, including Josh Moseman from Motocross Action, just ripping on these things, having the best time. And again, they're not about to, stop riding a 450 motocross or supercross bike, but it's just a completely different, different way to recreate, on a motocross track and have a lot of fun. That's it for us. Again, that's what the lightweight electric segment is, who the consumer is. A lot of cases, a new consumer, or even if it's a consumer that's coming to your door now, it's maybe an incremental sale to what they're buying from you already. And happy to answer any questions when we're all wrapped up here about it.
Andy, thank you very much. Sam, Andy's done a great job of defining the categories and the opportunities, but that's the tip of the iceberg. There's things like law enforcement. There's your fat tire bike that goes out and rides in the snow. It's not just about e-moto on a motocross track. There's profit centers, there's customer bases, there's a world of opportunity to tap into at a dealership level. Can you address some of the opportunities we've got?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Robin. Appreciate it. Yeah, similar to what Andy spoke about, I'd really like to speak today about some education around our products and our industry, as well as how we can help bring new customers to your dealership. Quietcat's a brand that's been around for 10 years, making a very tried and tested product. High-powered, long-range, utility-focused e-bikes that really lend themselves to lots of different customers. And, areas that typically Powersports dealers may not work with, that our bikes and similar bikes could bring in new customers, are hunting and fishing space, law enforcement and government, rental operations, hospitality, RV parks, campgrounds, overlanders, and those customers want to use the bike as a tow behind transportation option. So, Quietkat, since we've always made these very utility focused vehicles that were first marketed towards hunters, it really lends itself towards these other utility based uses. And law enforcement and government use is a big one. And that's one that we'd love to work with any dealership on and lend our expertise in that area. Just as your end consumer, member of the public is going electric, so is government and law enforcement for all the same reasons: utility, long range, making their job easier. And our utility focused bikes really help that type of first responder or government agency worker get their job done faster and easier. Quietkat's got a long history of working with that type of customer. And we believe it's a great way to bring in new customers to dealerships and also, set up service plans and long-term partnerships and long-term relationships with this type of customer. And then many dealerships are already selling side-by-sides and dirt bikes and other products to the hunt fish space, but that's a huge portion of the U.S. population that hunts and fishes. It's a big market that could be tapped into, and that's our main demographic is that hunter and fisherman. And we believe we can bring new customers to your dealership and tap even further into that hunt fish space than you already are. Another one that is really growing, just with the popularity of electric bikes and electric options out there, is rental and hospitality. And rental, being your dealership could potentially find a new revenue source by bringing in some units to rent to your customers, which drives retail sales. The other aspect of rental is partnering with local hotels and local resorts to provide rental units for them to use on their property, either for guest experiences or also for an additional revenue source for that partner, and renting bikes as a new guest activity at the resort or hotel, or even some of these high-end campgrounds and glamping and RV parks. Everyone's really just stepping up their game out there and adding more activities, more amenities to every type of hospitality organization. And e-bikes and electric mobility and electric moto are all such a fast growing category that these customers are all coming in looking for this type of product. And again, just another way to bring in new customers to your dealership and find new partnerships with other businesses and organizations in your area. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was a little bit more about our products. Again, high-powered, long-range, utility-focused e-bikes with a full line of accessories to enhance the utility of these vehicles. As Andy mentioned, similar to RAWRR, we have all UL certified batteries. So, it really benefits the dealer to choose a reputable partner in these areas. As Andy mentioned, so many different options out there, so many different, direct from China options. And, especially when it comes to a bike that has UL certified batteries, New York started it. I'm sure, many other states are close behind to require UL certified batteries to sell electric bikes and electric moto and e-mobility products. And, choosing a partner and a supplier that, uses a tried and tested designs and UL certified products is just, a necessary step for all dealerships. It's not worth going to those less expensive options because of the hassle it's going to create down the road with service and warranty and faulty batteries and all of the stuff you could run into there. And Quietkat, we've got that's always our focus, is supporting our dealers from a revenue standpoint, but also from a service and warranty standpoint. And we've been at it long enough that we've got all the parts and pieces in the warehouse, ready to quickly support warranty as needed and keep your bikes on the trail, many years down the road with parts from our warehouse. And then we have new developments in the works. We're going to be launching some new products in winter 24 here in January and February, coming up soon. And we're really going to be focused on durability, low maintenance, some real upgrades that can't wait to launch, but we haven't yet. So I'm not going to give too many details today, but keep an eye out for Quietkat this winter. Going to be launching some amazing new products that have new technologies that haven't been seen in the e-bike world yet. I know the other thing we were going to talk about today, Robin, was kind of the accessibility in the e-bike classification system. And I know there's...
Before we get into classifications, though, I got a couple of questions that have come up in the near future. Is 300 mile an hour or 300 mile range feasible? Is that going to be within Quietcat's strong point? Because you've mentioned range.
Well, eventually. I don't think 300 miles is in the near future. And I would just pose the question of 300 miles. It would take a week of riding to cover 300 miles. We make bikes that we have a very realistic range on our bikes. Most of our bikes, we advertise 20 to 40 miles of range or 30 to 60 miles of range on a charge. That will be soon up to 100 miles of range on a charge, as soon as this coming year. But I think people need to be really realistic about the range. Even 20 miles of off-road riding is a really long ride. You can bring along an extra battery, you could bring along a solar charger. But doing 20 to 40 miles on a bike is a long way. But I think we'll be to 100 miles in this coming year, and 300 miles in a couple years. But I guess that kind of lends itself to just charging a bike once and then using it for a week, versus kind of the current model of riding it for a day and charging it overnight. So that would be I think it's more of a question of how much do you ride per day versus how much you ride in a week, because they're so easy to charge overnight.
Now dollars and cents wise, what is the profitability picture look like compared to an equivalent ICE product?
So Quietkat has margins that range from 30 to 40 points. And you just get a lot of value there as well. You may be able to find a little bit higher margin with other brands. But with Quietkat, you get great marketing support, great dealer support, parts and pieces and warranty and training, service training, sales training. That's why, we may not have the highest margins in the industry, but we fund all of the support with some of those margin dollars.
Yeah, same for us, Robin, as Sam, with warranty support, both parts and labor. parts stocked in the US, you know, as opposed to our competitors who, if you break something, you got to wait 2 or 3 months for it. But you know, in the motorcycle industry, you know, we offer 30% margins to our Powersports dealers, which we like to. It's funny, when you sell a RAWRR Mantis in your dealership, you make as much money as you would selling a really big adventure bike, you know, a $20,000 adventure bike. So we're proud of that fact, and then also, again, like Sam, happy to back it up.
Awesome, thank you. And Sam, now you can grab that third rail of the classification.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on this. I mean, the e-bike classification is still something that, you know, admittedly, by I'm sure everyone on this call, there's still some gray area involved. But what it does, and why it really, I think it should be a benefit to dealers, is it's related to bringing in new customers to your dealership. Because, you know, the e-bike classification system allows electric bikes that are classified to ride in areas that non-classified or other motorized vehicles are not allowed to ride in. You know, the Department of the Interior recognized the classification system back in 2019 and opened up the use of electric bikes to all of the Department of Interior managed lands, from state parks to national parks and BLM and Fish and Wildlife. And that's where it gets a little gray, because they basically, they recognized the classification system, but then left it up to the local land managers. So, you know, checking with peopleforbikes.org and just directly with your local land management offices is always the best way to double check what is allowed in those areas. But, you know, the fact that these bikes are allowed in national parks and state parks and wildlife areas and things along those lines, it's just a new customer. I mean, for me, you know, it doesn't replace my dirt bike. It doesn't, you know, replace, you know, RAWRR bike and, you know, what Andy's making. It's just another option. It's another toy for the garage, but somewhere that you can ride this type of bike that you can't ride your motorcycle, and you can't ride your motorized vehicles. You know, Quietkat has also addressed that recently. We have a new technology in our bikes, new firmware called VPO, the variable power output. And in the past, with our products, you had to choose between a classified or unclassified e-bike. And now with VPO, you can change your bike from class 1, class 2, class 3, or unclassified right on the display screen of the bike, or from our Quietkat app. And so that in the field, you can change your bike to meet the local regulations. And so this has just made the conversation for our dealer with their customer so much easier. You know, just the quick and easy is a Quietkat bike can be ridden anywhere that an electric bike is allowed. You can change it to class 1 where you need it. You can change it all the way up to unclassified, unrestricted mode, and ride it in full power in areas that don't have classification. It can be done right there in the field on the display screen. It shows what class you are in. So if you were to be stopped by a ranger or law enforcement, you could show them up, you know, this is a class 1 or class 2 e-bike. This is where it's set. And that's just, it made it so much easier for our dealers to sell our bikes when we came out with this technology. It cut the number of SKUs we had in half. You know, no longer had to choose between classified and unclassified e-bikes. And it also just made that conversation with the end consumer so much easier.
Awesome. So, George, we've spoken to the dealer from all these opportunities and perspective, but you were a bicycle guy, and you were on the IBD Council. You dealt with it at the highest levels for a long time. Gatto Cycle Shop goes back decades and decades of being a bicycle as well as a motorcycle shop. You've also seen that dichotomy of being a Harley dealer, where Harley guys don't wave at a guy on a moped and vice versa. Same thing with the bicycle world. The purists and the pedal guys won't acknowledge the pedal assist guys, and nobody wants to be the e-moto guy. Where do you fit in as a dealer? How does this collision of worlds actually happen on your showroom floor?
Wow. So I'll talk about my 20 group. We a bunch of us picked up e-bicycles during the COVID bump. We none of us could get enough product. We were laughing about not the e-bicycle side, but a lot of us picked up brands that we actually named it the Island of Misfit Toys at my last meeting in Nashville. And Tony Gonzalez picked that up, but he's been using it in all his garage casts. But we all picked up a lot of different products that we probably never would have picked up if it weren't for that COVID bump. Many of us picked up e-bicycles. I have been in the bicycle business since I was in high school. And I ran a little bicycle store on my parents' dealership, motorcycle dealership. I grew it to 5 stores when I got out of college. The channels of distribution changed. That industry has been in just change mode for as long as I can remember. And I saw how much money we were making in the Harley Davidson side, and how much money I wasn't making in the bicycle side. So I jumped over to the motorcycle side. But I was on, and it was actually the National Bicycle Dealer Association. I was on that board for like 10 years. I actually got on the phone with Larry Peasy, who's a good friend of mine. Larry, let's see here. Sam talked about the People for Bikes, which is the MIC of the bicycle industry. They're the ones that handle all the the imports, the categories. They're the ones working really hard on these categories right now. So I'm going to jump off subject for a second and get in the weeds. What Sam was talking about, and also Tim with the UL ratings, that is really important. So before we even get into a discussion about dealers, if you get into the business, or if you just buy an e-bicycle, or you have a friend that wants to buy an e-bicycle, do not buy the stuff that's not UL approved. And you got to watch these categories. Again, Sam hinted at this. We've got these companies from China that were able to get around all these government regulations, and they're importing one at a time, direct to consumer from China, garbage bicycles that the batteries can catch fire because there aren't any laws, there aren't any regulations. It's a big problem. So before we even get into this, the subject you asked me about, people need to understand: do not buy these garbage one-on-one bicycles that are low-end pieces of crap. You can't get parts for them. They're unsafe. They don't meet any of the categories that they put out there. In fact, during COVID, they found ways to get around the categories. And how I got some of this information is Larry Peasy is a good friend of mine. Larry is the chair of the Electric Bicycle Subcommittee on People for Bikes. And I know they're working really hard on trying to clarify some of these categories, because there's all these products that don't fit any of the categories. And, as a dealer, we brought some of that stuff in. And we didn't know that they weren't safe products. They weren't good products. You want to stick with the guys that know what they're doing, that build good products, that offer service, that offer repair parts, like Andy and Sam were talking about. That's the people you want to deal with. So as a dealer, I already had a bicycle store. I had 5 at one point. I downsized it when I bought my second Harley dealership, and I just didn't want to give up on bicycles because I still had all these friends in the industry. I still love the industry. I stayed in it. We were doing over $4 million a year in bicycles back, in the early mid 90s. It was a great business model, but it's changed. We got into it during the COVID bump. We sold some product during the COVID bump. Right now, business is pretty much falling off a cliff with just about every category that we carry, whether it's power sports, on-road, off-road, electric, what have you. It's dropped off. I'm hoping we go back to like maybe 2019 numbers, but we had a great run with this COVID bump. As far as where the future is for e-bicycles, I honestly don't know. Even e-motorcycles, we picked up Zero motorcycles, and we did fairly well with them during COVID. This year, we've not sold much of them. I did not do live wire, and I'm glad I didn't do live wire, and I'm not going to do live wire. What Andy has is a pretty unique niche product. I like that. What Sam's doing with Quietkat, that's a good quality, service-oriented brand. That's what you want. I can tell you that a bunch of guys in my 20 group went and picked up some of the name brands that everybody's heard of. And the one brand that probably 7 or 8 guys in my group picked up, as soon as they picked it up and put up, nice displays and hired people and brought in tools and equipment, the brand went direct to consumer, and the guys all got mad and pulled out. But that's where the market's heading. So we as dealers can't just it used to be independent bicycle dealers, IBDs. We were used to, we were the only ones that carried a lot of these brands. And now, the distribution has changed over the last probably 20 years. And, you got to look at, there's different levels of marketing, and you're not going to find very many bicycle brands that don't sell direct to consumer. So, what the future is, I honestly don't know. I like the product. I love the technology. I love that you can ride these in places that you can't ride a motorcycle. There's a lot of positives. But honestly, I really don't know where it's going. My crystal ball is not that good, Robin.
So there's a question that comes to that. It seems like the bicycle realm is better suited to showing off this product than your typical Harley store. And it takes up the same amount of floor space essentially as a $36,000 Road King's going to take. So where do you look at that as a dealer? Is it worth your time? Do you create a separate section of the showroom floor and bite the bullet on that? Then again, there's no flooring charges either hanging over your head. So this is a pretty complicated thing.
Yes. I mean, if I were to do it all over again and looking at the guys in my group, the guys that did it right by putting in a section where they had not just the bicycles, the e-bicycles, but they also had the accessories that go along with it. Because you need the helmet, you need the clothing, you need the gloves, the eye protection, so forth. You got to stock some parts. So it's a different business, and you got to have somebody who knows how to do that. The Harley thing, Harley has been a huge part of my business for many, many, many years. The bicycle they came out with, I actually spent a lot of time with Rich Bunzel on the phone. He was the guy that headed up that project. And when he told me what the profit margin was going to be, I was like, Rich, this makes 0 sense for me to bring in this bicycle. I'm going to make nothing on it, and I'm going to give it floor space, and I can't even pay commissions to my people. So that business model just did not work at all. And they did eventually change the business model, but at that point it was too late. And I just didn't have any interest in it. But we currently have some e-bicycles in our Powersports store. I do not have them in my Harley store. I have a guy that does assemblies, repairs, knows the business, been doing it for a long time. And we sell some. I can't tell you we're selling a ton, but we do sell them. And we're only carrying the good product that you can buy parts for. And if people bring in the junk bikes, I don't want my store catching fire from some garbage lithium battery. So we won't even touch them. We won't work on them. If they bring them in, I won't even put them in the store. I mean, there's been articles in the bicycle trade magazines where there's guys buying like steel dumpsters, and they're putting them in the parking lots behind their stores, and they're putting those garbage batteries in those steel dumpsters. So if they catch fire, it doesn't burn their building down. So there's some serious repercussions to buying the garbage. So
quality always shows. Now, Tim, can you put a bow on this? Because what we've seen at the MIC level, trying to define these things, how do we administer to explosive batteries, and who takes the hit when that kid on the Chiron gets hit in an intersection? Is that a Motorcycle Industry Council issue? Is that a People for Bikes issue? Or is it just going to hurt all of us, and the government's going to step in and tell us what we can and can't sell and take away this market?
I don't know, Robin. Can you ask me a broader question, please? Look, I think, as you know, sitting in the council with me, I've been very adamant about this category. When I made a decision to go full-time consulting 2 years ago, categorically, this was the category that really got me going the most, because I saw the most possibility for this category. But there's been to date not nearly the amount of responsibility by manufacturers I think that there should have been. I think to date, there's been a lot of guys that have skirted the issues and not been honest about them. We have, electric e-moto manufacturers who import it as a trail bike, and you cut one wire and it does 50 miles an hour, right? So there's all kinds of sketchy stuff. And so I think, like anything that's emerged in our industry over the last 40, 50 years, there's going to be some vetting. There's going to be some clearing of companies. There's going to be guys that come in, try to make a quick buck and sell to anybody that can fog a mirror. And when things go bad, they're going to evaporate, and you're not going to see that name in the market anymore. So unfortunately, there is some of that in the marketplace. And I'm looking at some of the questions coming up here, and I think I can talk to a lot of those points. I mean, I've worked with e-bike, I've worked with e-moto, I've worked with a lot of things in between, all the way up to Energica and their racing program, where they actually put an electric bike on the podium this year in a Moto American event. That's a huge step forward for electric and racing to compete against ICE motors. This category, as everybody has said, is not going away, but how do we best address it? So I'm going to talk more on a business standpoint here. To the range questions, you know, you have guys like Dost that now have dual batteries and 150 miles range. That's a lot of range on a bicycle. You have guys adding new technologies like Quietkat. They're going to greatly increase the range. You know, in conversations with people who've ridden RAWRRs on trails, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours of hard trail riding, single track, especially for older riders, is quite a bit of riding. And you're going to pull that, you know, out of a lot of these e-motos. And I think we have to look at this whole thing realistically. So to step back just a notch, you as dealers know your market better than anybody. I've been to probably close to 500 dealers this year. I've traveled a lot. I've set up 210, I think now, RAWRR dealers nationwide, and a lot of other brand dealers. Now, when I'm in the South, when I'm in hunting and fishing territory, there are conversations all the time about Quietkat and other e-bike brands, because it is a utilitarian piece and they can mount it on the back of a UTV and go into certain ways and then ride in further on an e-bike and access areas they may not be able to get to in their UTV. E-moto becomes the same opportunity for hunters, you know, dead silence on bikes and on e-moto coming in. You know, I've had guys tell me in Texas, you know, if they're downwind of wild hogs and they're on an e-moto or UTV or a bicycle, they can get to within 50 feet of these animals because they don't see them or hear them coming, right? So there's things there that exist that are interesting for your consumers. Range anxiety is something that's going to exist for a while until battery technology gets better. I mean, when you look, I had all kinds of pictures of all kinds of bikes. I'm not going to bother putting them up, but we know at the top end, you know, you've got Lightning, you've got Zero, you've got Energica, you know, you've got these $15,000 to $20,000 bikes. And if you rail them hard, you get 70 to 120 miles range on them. Well, my riding day, when I go out on my multi-strada, doesn't begin until I hit probably 200 miles, right? I'm doing 300 miles on a Sunday, having a great time. So that's an issue, you know, and that's not going to change till batteries get better. But depending on where you live, what your environment is, you know, a big day of riding for somebody in San Francisco, maybe a 100-mile round trip, right? So that e-bike makes more sense in the city, makes more sense for the riding area around there. They're not necessarily going to go out and rail this huge range. They're going to go on local roads that are fun. Same's true with bicycles. The utility factor is unbelievable. When you look at like Dost, you know, they have a new bike coming out that's going to carry 330 pounds on it. Last mile delivery, food delivery, local parts delivery for automobile dealers. Think about where you live, what your backyard is, and how certain e-bikes or e-mobility devices can fit into that categorically. And is that a business you want to get into? I mean, there's going to be some e-bicycle three-wheelers coming out that carry 800 pounds. That means Lowe's can do a local delivery on a bicycle with a 16 or 15-year-old kid versus, you know, paying somebody in a truck to drive it somewhere. So all these things open up: pizza delivery, food delivery, you know, all your local, I don't even use the food delivery, but you know what I'm talking about. This all becomes possibilities and very affordable on a bicycle. It can give you a full day's worth of work on one charge in a small environment. Where I live here in Pismo, there's nothing more than about 5 miles away. You could deliver food or goods all day long on one charge. So depending on where you're at is what fits. The police units that Sam has and other companies have, if you're already servicing police bikes, why not be the one that introduced them to e-bicycle police bikes? They're all using them. They catch more criminals typically on a bicycle than they do in a car. They never see them coming on a bike. That's been told to me by dozens of police officers. So look at those opportunities that make sense for your dealership. For training, if you are a hardcore off-road, if you look at all the statistics, and I've done all this reading, if you look at the training, what you get out of an e-bicycle versus a standard bicycle, it's been proven time and again that e-bicycles give you a better training platform than bicycles. You stay aerobic, not anaerobic. You can ride longer and harder on a pedal assist bike, so you get a longer training time frame on that bike. They're a great device, especially for aging riders who are still wanting to train and race and ride. So these are great things. And then when you go to the business side of it, this is where it becomes big. So, you know, who do you go with? They've all touched on this subject. There's a lot of fly-by-nights out there. that they may give you a warranty part, but it's going to ship to you from China. They aren't going to pay any warranty labor. They aren't really going to stand behind their product because they have so many customers they could care less. So get to know the brands you're going to bring in to your dealership. You know, when I went to RAWRR, I was lucky to get on the front end of it and work with Andy and the team there to really develop the infrastructure. And Quietkat already had this infrastructure of warranty labor, warranty parts, having the parts in stock before we sold bike one, $2.5 million worth at RAWRR, of trying to talk, walk, and work with a dealer like you work with your regular OEMs now, whether that be Harley Davidson, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, doesn't matter. We wanted to walk, talk, and look like an OEM. You know, we had financing in place through Synchrony and Octane, working on flooring now. So all these things are going to matter to your dealership. And these are the brands you want to work with, the ones that have a plan that's a long-term plan, a plan for longevity and profitability. As Andy indicated, you know, on a RAWRR, you tack on freight and setup of about $250, you're at 30+% margin. And you can't touch that until you get into a very, very expensive bike. So you've got a $49.99 retail product on your floor that you make $1,500 a unit on. That's the strength of e-bike. And a lot of e-bikes offer, or e-moto, excuse me, a lot of e-moto offers that type of margin compared to 10% on a dirt bike if you're lucky now. Right? So that's where it becomes important to your dealership is you're making more margin and more profit per square foot on some of these e-motos than you would on a regular motorcycle that you've heavily invested in. So suddenly you have a much better looking profit center in e-moto. Part of what Sam said, same thing, 30, 40, 50%, depending on when it comes or if there's a deal on the bike. Part of what George indicated was really, really on point. If you're going to put in e-moto or e-bicycle into your store, then you need to put in the accessories and you need to put in an area and you need to have somebody with some expertise on this if it's going to work, and you need to market a little bit. If you do, I see the guys who market and build out these areas instantly turning units. I see others who plug it in, and I go in their shop and I find 2 e-moto bikes in the middle of 45 Kawasaki's, Hondas, Yamaha, Suzuki's. They don't stand out. There's no reason for somebody to look at them even. Have them stand out a bit, because the difference between e-bicycle, e-moto, than regular motorcycle is you make your money on the front end in electric. You don't make your money on the service side of it. The beauty of electric is this: if something goes wrong, it's a motor, a controller, a battery, or a short. It's easy to diagnose and easy to fix. The hardest thing you have to do is replace the motor, and typically that's an hour or less labor, right? But where the people who are really making money in this category is they're putting on Warp 9 wheels, Warp 9 pegs, they're putting on gut seats, they're putting on, you name it, as far as accessories on the front end, and that $49.99 bike goes out the door at $6,000 with another $1,500 or $1,200 of profitability for you by building up. And most people want that everything bike anyways, and they're willing to pay for it because they're buying it on a payment. So build out the area, accessorize it, have things to put on the bike. That's where you're going to make your money in electric. More so, it's having the saddlebags, the spare batteries, it's having you know, the trow behind trailers for Quietkat, you know, both the deer hauling trailer and the utility trailer hauling groceries or going behind your motorhome, so that you have something when you go out and adventure and you park your truck with a tent on top and realize you can't drive anywhere. Now you've got an e-moto or a bicycle you can go down to the local store and pick up your goods on that can be mounted on the back of that truck, right? So it's just an extension. And as Andy indicated, we're not looking to go out there and replace a KTM 450. We're not looking to go out there and replace these major units. This is an accessory, an ancillary piece. What people find is that moto dad who typically would buy a pit bike is now buying an e-moto bike or an e-bike, and they're riding the heck out of it. And what they're realizing is you don't have to change oil, you don't have to change filters, you don't have to put gas in it. You ride it, you bring it back, and unless it's got a flat, you plug it in, you ride it the next day. For me, I live 2 miles from a trailhead. I've got a beautiful Honda 250 out here. It's my favorite bike I've ever had. Love it. Built it to a big 302. It's a great trail bike. And to ride it, I got to put it on a trailer, drive to a trailhead, get dressed, go riding, load it back up, bring it back home, unload it, go through all that mess. I'm having a crappy day. It's 5 o'clock. I walk in my garage. I put a leg over my e-moto. I ride 2 miles. I'm on a single track. I put in 45 minutes. I come home. I plug it back in. I'm done. And I find myself riding e-moto 3 or 4 times as much as I ever rode off-road because it's simple, it's easy, and it's fun. With 50 foot-pounds of torque, and I'm not little, I'm 250 pounds, it hauls my big butt around just fine. That's where these things become fun. And that's why you see National Rodeo. Saw them all over National Rodeo. They're riding them from the horse trailers up to the main event. They're using them for transportation just within these things. Motocross, you go to any motocross race now, you're going to see people riding e-moto as well, because it's a blast and it gets the job done instead of a traditional bicycle, or they're going to ride an e-bike, pedal assist. It's simpler. You're tired. You've been racing all day. It makes sense. Same's true in the pits for Moto America. We're seeing more and more e-moto and e-bike hauling tires to the tire changing station at Dunlop. I mean, that's the utility of all these things, is they're really usable. And I got to tell you, just when you're tired on a bike, and I've pedaled a lot in my life, but when you're tired on a bike and you just hit a throttle for those last couple miles, it's awful nice. Okay. But for you dealers out there, look, it's the profitability. It's the usability and knowing your use case in your local area and understand what's going to best work there. Get to know the companies you're going to buy with, and are they reputable? Are they going to be around? Do they have an infrastructure that's going to pay you warranty labor and take care of you? Do they have the parts you need when things go bad? Do they answer the phone when there's a problem? Are they going to take care of you? Build an area that matters, that really showcases this and shows that you're in that business. If you're the local Yamaha dealer, everybody knows you're a local Yamaha dealer, but they may not know you're selling an e-bike or an e-moto. Spend a little time, make a little investment, let people know you're expanding, you have something else to offer. And there's a lot of times, and I don't want this to sound sexist, but the truth is I've been in stores and seen that guy in there buying his new KTM and his wife's with him, and there's just nothing really in that store to fit her very well. And she goes and sits on that 160-pound e-moto and realizes she can go riding and have fun too. And that becomes a very secondary purchase for the wife or the moto mom as well. They're easy to ride. I ran into a 70-year-old wife and 72-year-old husband in Utah that had been riding dual sport together for 20 years. And they quit riding because they couldn't find a bike they felt was light enough for them to enjoy. And then they ended up buying 2 e-moto bikes. And they'd load them on their, of all things, Subaru, drive to the trailhead, unload them, go ride for 45 minutes, load them back up, and go back home. And they had a great time. He was scared. The bikes were too big. He was going to break a hip. There was going to be a problem. And he told me point blank, I've just extended my riding life another probably 5 years, and I didn't think I was ever going to ride again. So from 14 to 7.
We can't extend this another 5 years. In fact, we've already butted up against the hour and pushed over. So
all right.
For all the people who've got questions in, we will address those and get back to you individually.
Yep.
We will do everything we can. This video will be made available so you can share it with your GM or anybody in the shop that needs to see it. Be thinking about it though. I mean, these were all salient points. There is opportunity here. We're going into a crazy time in 2024. If you don't start looking at this sort of thing, you're going to be that next guy who's out of the business, and it's going to be the guy who figured this out before you did. So,
and the last point, Robin, I've taught probably 20 people this year to ride on e-moto who'd never ridden a motorcycle, and within 5 minutes they were riding and couldn't believe it. That's it, because there's no shifting, there's no clutch, it's easy to learn on. That's what e-moto and that's what e-bicycle can do, is create that experience. And that's what allows them to think about riding a motorcycle. That's the inroad, right? And you've got thousands of kids coming off of STASIX now, moving into that next category. So what's it going to be?
Well, I would like to thank all of our panelists today. Folks in the audience, info@npda.org. Send us your questions. If we didn't get to them, go to our website, npda.org. If you're not a member of the National Powersports Dealer Association, please consider joining so we can continue to put on events like this. This will be could be a regular series webinar alone, this topic. And I can tell you that the things we heard today are going to be so relevant in 2024 and beyond. So continue to follow what we're doing, join our group. And again, info@npda.org with your questions. I'll direct them to all of our panelists and they will get back to you. So thanks on behalf of the National Powersports Dealer Association, our board, and all of our members. Have a great day, and we will look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.